What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Jack Ramsays pregame show. I am your host, Danny Marang, joined as always by Brandon Sprague. And well, Sprague, it's a 1-1 season. Trailblazers obviously have, we've already talked about it a little bit in the mailbag pod, talked about it in the post game against the Suns. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hiding their way through the beginning of the season. The Los Angeles Clippers winless through their first two, not exactly getting out to a easy schedule, taking on the Grizzlies and the Warriors, playing great games in both of those. Paul George lighting the world on fire, which we will talk about here in a little bit. I guess first thing is, what do you like, what don't you like about what you've seen from the Trailblazers and kind of heading into this game?
I mean, it's really hard to say what I don't like because I feel like they've been kind of two different teams in a certain regard. To see what they did against Phoenix was really encouraging, but as we talked about in that post game, again, not that Sacramento was the worst team in the NBA by any stretch, but they had a lot of mistakes and a lot of big moments given up in that Sacramento game. So I think tonight to me is more of are you going to fall in the middle like I think? Are you going to lean Phoenix? And honestly, I think this matchup provides a pretty exciting opportunity for them to kind of show maybe who they're going to be. It might just be a glimpse. I'm not going to sit here, whether they win or lose, and tell you, oh, I'm convinced they're this, or I'm convinced that they're that. I think we need to go to that 20 to 25 games. But I think tonight
I need hard decisions, Sprague. I need you to commit now.
What are we doing here? Like, I don't want to lie to you guys. I don't. What do I like? I mean, I like what I saw against Phoenix. What don't I like? I didn't like what I saw against Sacramento. I mean, it's.
I'll tell you this: the first couple comments in here, Rip City winner. I feel it already. I feel a 10-point win, Rip City baby. God, I love the pendulum of Portland fans.
They're gonna win tonight.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the Clippers are a good team, but I like Portland's chances tonight.
Let me check real quick. The Clippers were favored tonight. I believe they were favored by 3.
3. Yeah.
So I don't think the line has moved off of that. To what's crazy is I believe Vegas has had it locked in so far. I believe it was were the Kings favored opening night by the time it's hip? I think they were.
No, the Kings wouldn't have been favored on the road.
I thought they got bet down. Maybe I was looking at it at halftime. I'm trying to remember exactly what I saw, but I'm trying to open up the app here to. Oh well,
here.
It's
Give me a second. I'll look up what Portland's record against the spread is, but I'm pretty certain Sacramento was the underdog, and then Portland was the underdog against Phoenix. Or no. Yeah, Phoenix was a slight dog, +2.
Yes, because I went into that thinking, interesting.
Right.
Turns out Vegas pretty good at what they do. Holy Ass Gaming, am I crazy for thinking the under on the 230 Vegas line? Is it 229.5 or is it 230.5? That is very important. Because if it's 230 or under, I am taking the over. It's just this Portland team already.
Yeah,
they've shown that they can score like crazy, and they've shown that they can give up points like crazy.
So Sacramento, they were 6.5-point favorites was the closing line. They outright lost the game. And then Phoenix, they were 3-point favorites. Their totals so far are 234 and 229.5. That was the two totals for the previous two games.
Going into tip-off.
Yeah. So they actually
lowered it.
Oh my God. Look at this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
The Phoenix Sun line was 229.5. It finished at, it was 239. So they hit the over in that one, and then they hit the over in the Sacramento. They've hit over on both of them.
Yeah, I know the Clippers are going to play pretty decent defense, but both the Warriors and the Grizzlies have not exactly had issues scoring. I think that's just kind of going to be the MO in the NBA. I think we're kind of in the juiced ball era of the NBA, so to speak. It's the free throw rules taking away from the free throw grifting of Trae Young, James Harden, and a few others.
I think it's been great.
I do too. I definitely like the way don't hold this against me because it'll fly in my face tonight. I actually like the way games have been called so far.
Yeah,
not just the Portland games. Just I've watched a ton of NBA. I've watched at least 2 games every day, I think, for the past 4 days. So,
yeah,
I'm kind of a masochist in that regard. Minbum says I've got the Seahawks on mute for y'all. Listen, I saw DK. Listen, that's
offensive pass interference.
But still, that's a grown man.
Egregious offensive pass interference, and nobody threw a flag. I love DK Metcalf, by the way, but
that is a grown man.
Threw him to the ground with one arm.
Hey man, he's channeling into Shannon Sharp. Looking in tonight, one of the things I definitely want to make sure that we just kind of keep getting in there, and I have the wrong graphic because I'm an idiot. Like it, love it, leave it. What are you liking about tonight? What are you loving about tonight? What are you leaving tonight, Senor Sprague?
I'm liking the point guard matchup for Damian Lillard. I'm going to go back to that even though I did that against Phoenix, and they didn't really need Dame all that much. I love Anfernee Simons coming off that bench.
Hey.
And I'm gonna leave that defense again. And I need to not see that defense for the 3rd straight game.
Got a little dicey.
Yeah,
little dicey. I think a few people got mad at me. I'll say a few. A lot got mad at me because I said that the Blazers didn't do a great job defensively. The Suns helped them out by missing some shots early on, and the Blazers hit a truckload of threes.
Well, we came in a post game. They just won by 30 points, and you're like, let me tell you what I didn't like about that performance.
I did say I listened to part of it back when I was editing it and loaded it up to the pod feed. I did say flat out, I was like, hey, this isn't bad. I did give them their praise. I said, hey, they did a lot of good things. CJ continues to be hot. Dame is still dishing it out. Dame's basically 20-10 right now. It's kind of a weird thing. He can't hit a 3 to save his life, but he's carving up. I watched that game back. He could have had 12, 13 assists. I was like, wow, he really was setting the table really well. How that works for them, gonna be interesting. Ben West is asking who the Clippers have out. I think there was an update to it. Let me check the injury notifications here real quick. I know there was one added for the Clippers. Keon Johnson is questionable. Serge Ibaka, Kawhi Leonard, and Jason Preston are all out. Yeah. Obviously, Norman Powell is out tonight. And as we expected, the Blazers announced, without announcing, that there's no timetable set for Norman Powell. Which,
by the way, Casey said that's protocol for what the team has kind of been doing as of late.
Shout out to Casey Holdall. Shout out to Chold because he's picking up what's been put down by the franchise for a long time. So it is what it is. Ryan Johnson asked Nassir starting. I have not seen anything yet because it's a quick turnaround. I haven't been able to ask anybody if that is the case because they left town yesterday and they're down in LA, and I don't start asking stuff when guys are on the road like that. So I would assume that is going to be the case as Tony Snell just went through walkthroughs today. We did get that update. He is not ready, but he did get out there and go through a little bit of a warm-up. I'm going to roll it back here. My like it, love it, leave it. For me tonight, my love is, apparently my puppy because somebody's knocking on the door. Shout out getting to the studio sooner rather than later, so that doesn't happen anymore. But on top of that, it's going to be Nassir Little. He's going to draw the role of taking on Paul George and taking on Paul George because they don't have anybody else to throw at him. I fully expect to see the Blazers play their small ball lineup tonight. Zubac is not going to be a guy who's going to play 35, 36, 38 minutes tonight. That's just not going to be the case. Even with Baca dealing with some stuff, the Clippers are going to play small, which means the Blazers are probably going to play small, which means you're going to see the Nance Covington lineup. Hell, we may even see a little bit of Greg Brown if things get a little bit dicey in the front court as far as foul trouble goes. But this is the issue with Portland. As much as we talk about the front court,
yeah,
that forward position, they have two guys. They have Nas and they have Tony Snell when we're talking about like true wing size. Norm's 6'4" with a nice wingspan, but if any of those guys go down, they run into issues real quick. So My love it is Nas, and I hope he plays within himself. And I guess it's a good time to say right now, Nassir Little will be on the podcast tomorrow afternoon. I will be recording with him. So finally got him booked in. Had to wait because of the injury, and then Richmond stole him from me. That's right, Mike. You're a
Well, he's a fellow Tar Heel.
He is
right?
a fellow Tar Heel, so I couldn't be too mad.
A big thing, by the way, nice plug there. Looking forward to the interview with Nas. Important note tonight. So obviously the names sound familiar. They're having good years so far. Reggie Jackson, Eric Bledsoe, they're averaging 31 points to combine. I'm really curious to see how Dame and CJ, because I think that could be a big part of what tonight is too, right? Like Paul George has been cooking on
absolute nuclear winter.
No offense to Nassir Little. I just think if Paul George is going to cook, he's going to cook. If he's off, I don't think it's a defensive thing. I think it's really just Paul George having an off night because he's been that good.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what happens if Dame and CJ aren't locked in defensively, because we know Reggie Jackson's capable going for 40 on any given night. And we know Eric Bledsoe. We think we know Eric Bledsoe. He's been super engaged this year and kind of getting back to the Bledsoe that we thought he was going to be early in his career before he kind of hit that wall a little bit. So I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Dame and CJ to really lock in defensively. Otherwise, you'd be doing your teammates a disservice tonight.
So my love it is going to be Nassir Little, like we talked about, and particularly for that reason, I think he's got to do at least in again, hat tipped here to Richmond when Nassir was on his show the other day. Nas said, "Hey, sometimes you just can't stop a guy. You just it's hard to be a stopper in the NBA. Some offenses are just better in the way that the league is called right now. It's not something you can really go out and just shut a guy down. Now, there are a couple guys who can really put that kind of work in. I don't think Nas is really at that level quite yet. It doesn't say he can't be, but that's a tough task to ask for one of the a young guy to stop one of the best scorers in the league. For my like it is Larry Nance Jr. He's going to get an opportunity here. I want to see Nance Jr. because they're going to go with those small ball lineups, and I think you're going to see some things that you haven't seen from him in the first two games. I wouldn't say he's disappointing so far. I would use underwhelming. I think he's done a ton on the out-of-the-box score stuff, and I think he's done a great job as far as leading that defense and trying to get guys to be in the right position, cover up for mistakes, and playing in this small ball lineup. I think you're going to see him have to be more valuable for this Trailblazers team to be successful tonight.
Would you be surprised if this is statistically what Larry Nance becomes on this team?
No. I think you're going to see him have a Rocco-ish line where you're like, oh, he didn't really do a ton, but then you'll look and like he's instead of having, I think Covington you'll see with a bunch of blocks from that help side. You look at Nance's stat line, you're like, huh, Nance had 4 steals tonight and 5 assists. What the hell? When did that happen? Like you're gonna see the secondary stats columns, not the points, the rebounds that you typically associate with a big or a big forward. And instead, you're going to see steals and rebounds. Covington, you get the blocks and threes, and I think it just kind of staggers how those two guys play along each other. And it's going to be really interesting because I've seen a lot of people say that, oh, you can see Nance playing some small ball center, and I think you're going to at times, but I think it's better for Covington to end up playing that small ball center, staying closer to the rim because he's got a better block rate. He's a little bit slower footed, but his timing's really good as a shot blocker.
Yeah.
Kind of patrolling around the rim from that weak side. And Nance plays a little bit better higher up in the paint, around that free throw line extended, being that disruptor. And I think if you've got those two guys in those two places, you can do some things. And it's going to be really interesting with how the Clippers are going to roll out there, where they can basically put 3, 4, 5 guys sometimes that are 6'7", 6'8" at the same time.
I mean, you got Winslow, Mann, Kennard, Batum. I mean, that's
with PG.
With PG, I mean it's going to be interesting to see what Portland does in terms of.
And Reggie's not small. Reggie's 6'5".
No, Reggie's not a small guard. I'm just saying, like when you look to the bench, they're pretty solidly built. Now, I'm curious what the lineup's going to be, and I know we won't know that for what do you think? Probably another half hour or so, whatever that ends up being.
They're going to hold it until the last possible second.
Right. So I'm curious to see what that is because the rotation could be huge tonight. Because you could look at the Clippers, I think from the outside and see Mann, Batum, Kennard, Winslow. You pair some of these guys with PG. It creates interesting matchups for Portland, that's for sure. And I think to your Larry Nance point, that's why guys like him are going to be very vital tonight. Is if Nurk can't really run with everybody, you're going to run the small ball lineup. Are you better off with Larry Nance? Are you better off with Rocco? I'm really curious. This is a night where Chauncey might give us a glimpse of who he is as a coach starting out. Like, give us an idea of how he's viewing the game and what he's thinking with his team.
And look at that, a professional radio host right there, just kind of teeing it up for me. My leave it is Yusuf Nurkic, and there's not a negative with Yusuf Nurkic. I want to see Chauncey Billups leave the tendency to go small all the time when somebody else does, to always downsize. If one of your issues as a team and consistently is playing small, or playing big, take that opportunity. If they're going to go small, see if you can punish them a little bit with the one true big guy that you have. You don't have to match the Clippers small for small, big for big, because you're going to be playing small in your backcourt pretty much the entire game. So why not try to get some of that back? And that's something I've tried to push that away, not just Stotts, but just league-wide. It seems like teams always want to match. They always want to match. One of the things that I talked to a lot of NBA personnel about over the last couple of years, the prevailing idea of how to beat like the peak Warriors. It was teams kept trying to shoot with them. You can't shoot with the best shooter of all time, the third best shooter of all time, and probably the best scorer of all time. That was never a possibility. But what you could do, and what you can do to this generation's Warriors, the post-KD Warriors, is you can beat the hell out of them. You can get physical with them. You can score inside. And Chauncey has kind of instilled or tried to instill the idea of, hey, let's get physical. Let's get into guys. Let's try to dominate the paint a little bit more and not settle for threes. And I thought they've worked their way towards that balance a little bit better in Game 2 than they did Game 1. And I hope they lean on Nurk a little bit tonight.
Well, it's interesting because I think about that sometimes when you're watching a team run small, and to you, what you said, the other team kind of responds by also going small. The Golden State run, I mean, look, the KD thing is tough. Like pre-KD, though, we did see LeBron in the finals. Like the key to them was be physical, wear them down, make them body. Like that wears you down as a shooter. Get to their legs, get them tired, make them front rim everything. I wonder if you do decide to counter their small tonight with Nurkic and see what he can do running with some of these guys. Like I worry about how tired he's going to get, to be honest with you. Yeah. I think that's what a lot of teams, only so many teams have bigs that are capable of kind of running up and down, stretching the perimeter a little bit. And Nurkic, while again, he facilitates a lot at the top, he's averaging under 2 threes a game. So he's not really going to be a threat from that position. Not that your point is invalid. I'm just curious. That's a Chauncey thing. I'm really curious to see, does he counter with that? And how long does he give Nurkic an opportunity to try to run with the small lineup?
Because you take a look at the Kings. The Kings were running basically a guard-centric offense. It was just Fox just getting downhill, busting their ass the entire time, kicking out Harrison Barnes. That was drive and kick, drive and kick, drive and kick. The Suns, I don't really know what exactly. They looked like they were going through the motions a little bit, but as a Chris Paul offense where he wasn't really dictating, it seemed to fall more on Book's shoulders. I thought they settled a ton, but it was still more guard-centric. This is the first team that they're playing that is wing-centric. It is a wing-centric offense where it's not just your prototypical guard bringing it down and getting them into sets. It's going to be Paul George getting them in sets. It's going to be Nick Batum getting them into sets. And that's going to change the point of attack. It's going to change the point of attack defenders. And on the other side, Yusuf Nurkic, like you said, he can get down there. He can get tired. And that will be a problem for them if they run him ragged. The flip side of this is you've got Yusuf Nurkic, who's a hell of a screen setter. You've got Cody Zeller, who may be the best screen setter in the NBA.
Sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say, do you worry at all that if you run Nurkic when they take Zubats out, like, do you worry at all about that? Like, if they
could attack him. Yeah, no, 100%. They could try and stretch him out, but I think that's a good thing for Portland if they counter on the other end by putting Nurk in sets, not necessarily straight posting him, putting him in the mid post and forcing help. Yeah. If that's the thing that is the difference between just feeding somebody and saying, hey, Shaq, go eat. Hey, Dwight, go eat. That's not what Yusuf Nurkic is. But if he can force a double and play under control and play smart, then he can get them into sets and attack from a different angle and make them work in a way that their length, their size, the Clippers that is, becomes less valuable. Yeah. Because they have to double, they have to help, because if all of a sudden, they get caught in a cross match or a switch and Luke Kennard's stuck on Yusuf Nurkic, that should be, in theory, barbecue chicken.
Well, I think you go back to the Warrior-Laker game, just as a quick example here. The Warriors don't run big. They run super small. They know what they are. Yep. And the Lakers, for a long time of that game, was kind of taking advantage of that. They were feasting on it. And ultimately you couldn't hold the lead. I think that has more to do with team chemistry than it did,
dysfunction.
Yeah, I mean, dysfunction is what you could call it. But I think it's interesting. I've long wondered this, but I also understand the mindset of coaches who go, my 7-foot dude can't be running out here with a 6'9", 6'8" wing who's masquerading as a center, but he can play the perimeter as if he's a wing.
And this is the thing. This is an opportunity for Portland where they can look at this and go, okay, yeah, we're going to get spread out a little bit defensively, but we can not only can we get it back on the offensive end by being more physical, we can get them in more screen and roll actions where we can wear down their wings so they're not great in the end of the game. And one of the issues that I think Portland is going to have over this season without Jusuf Nurkic on the floor is rebounding. They don't have a ton of size. They don't. Now, Nas may be able. His rebound rate is actually done pretty well, and he's this first 2 games he's grabbed some rebounds in traffic that made me go, huh.
He cares. He's trying.
Yeah, I wonder if that's going to be something to keep an eye on as far as being a productive rebounder, because this is a Portland team that consistently has been during the Stotts era. They've had guys that ate up the ball. I mean, whether it was team rebounding when they had a Robin Lopez where he would box out 2-3 guys and it would just fall to somebody, or you had another guy in Enes Kanter who would just gobble up everything in sight. They have had the ability to grab rebounds. Outside of Jusuf Nurkic, they do not have a guy who will gobble up rebounds. Nance is okay. Zeller is okay. You've got some okay guys. And so I think you can maybe make a little bit of hay by getting some cheapies here. You can get some tip outs. You can get some offensive rebounds. So like you said, this is a fun chess match for Chauncey Billups to see kind of how and where he decides to make his subs.
So I have 2 questions that I really wanted to get your answer on for the pregame. The first is what you just hit on there. Interesting night for Chauncey. Quick sent out a tweet earlier reminding that he wrote the story about how Chauncey got into coaching and the Ty Lue connection. Being an assistant for a guy, but never being a head coach, Ty Lue's a good coach, but I wonder if Chauncey does have a bit of an advantage because he knows what Ty's tendencies are. I don't know if Ty has enough film to process what Chauncey's tendencies are. I'm wondering if, as ridiculous as it may seem because of what Ty Lue's experience says versus what Chauncey's is there a chance tonight Chauncey does maybe have a slight edge because he knows what Ty Lue likes to do in certain spots?
I think in certain avenues you might see that, but at the same time, in that interview, or it might have been the one that he did with Woj, I think it was the one that Chauncey sat down with Woj for. He talked about how rapid Ty Lue adjusts. It's not a wait till halftime. It's not wait till timeout. It's in live action. Hey, they're doing this. We need to do this. He says he's basically a savant in that he sees those adjustments and makes those adjustments faster than anybody in the league. Yeah. So while that might be there, Chauncey might throw a little wild card out there. From what Chauncey has said, Ty's on top of that stuff, and maybe he might get like a sideline out of bounds or a baseline out of bounds play where he's like, Ty's looking over at Chauncey like, oh, yeah, I remember that. You had a little wrinkle to it. It's the same thing when an offensive coordinator, leads an NFL team and gets a head coaching job. Yeah, you may know their tendencies, but hey, guess what? I'm going to set you up on those tendencies, and then I'm going to run a little counter on this back pick action where you overplayed, and now I'm going to swing it to the other side, and now I got a wide open 3. How'd you like that?
Do we still hate this team?
Is Paul George still on it?
Okay. Well, I was curious if it was led by Pat Bev, and now Pat Bev is in
that
Minnesota.
Man I will hate no matter what.
Well, I was curious if we still hated the Clippers.
So here, I'll give you my little rundown here. There is not a player in the league that I like less than Pat Beverly. Nobody. He's dirty. I don't like him. I'm not a Russell Westbrook guy, but if Russell Westbrook hauled off and punched him in the face for blowing out his knee and then coming back and doing it in the first game back against him, I would have had Westbrook's side. I don't like Bev at all, and I'm glad he's
a Westbrook guy.
No.
What?
Number one, I'm a USC guy. Come on, keep it real. Just saying.
You guys don't care about basketball. Stop pretending that matters.
We do a little bit. But
Jeez.
Number two, Paul George is the second corniest player in the NBA.
Oh, okay.
Behind KD. I wish KD leaned into who he could have been. The whole, I'm going to be the servant, as I said, instead of Slim Reaper.
Oh, dude, I watch him play tonight. Like, they're on TV right now, and I'm watching him play, and I'm just like, I could have liked you so much.
He could have been generational, as far as the praise. I don't.
He'll get his love at the end, but like
it's not going to be the same.
No way. Those, I mean, he hasn't won a championship. He needs to win a championship.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where I will sit here and I will watch some Nick Batum action unequivocally. I love Nick. Nick's
they revitalized his career.
He even said that he feels like he did the Hornets dirty. He was never healthy. He was never really right. It wasn't a good place for him mentally. I think he said something along the lines of like, I wish I could kind of give the money back, so to speak, but not really. No, he backtracked out of that, like, but not really.
Yeah, I hate when people say that. It's like, then what'd you say it for? If not really, then why'd you bring that up? Because you robbed him?
Yeah, no, he did. He basically said, no, I think I didn't live up to my contract. There are a couple guys on this team. Somebody else said, "How can't hate the Clippers when they have Terrence Mann? Terrence Mann's a fun player. They've Zubac is a fun player. Kennard kind of has gone through these weird, like they've got some fun players.
I love the Morris twins. Always have.
Oh God, see now you found another group of guys. The Morai. I don't not a Morai guy.
Dude, you wouldn't want a Morris twin on this team?
No.
What?
No.
What's wrong with you?
See, here's the thing. I like a-holes. I like the dudes who just get out.
They're absolute a-holes.
Like Draymond, love him. Love Draymond. Absolutely, unequivocally. I don't like dirty players.
Oh, you think the Morris twins are dirty?
There's a couple instances where they've almost or intentionally gone after guys, and it's been not good. If you undercut a guy in the air purposefully, you were immediately on that list of no, I don't like you at all. Because that's the most unwritten rule in basketball. You cannot do that. And I just got a Slack notification. Nassir Little is officially starting.
Okay, so they went against what you were kind of wondering, right?
I didn't know if Snell was going to be ready to go, so it was that.
Well, I didn't think it was ridiculous. Somebody suggested Macklemore, and I'm like, well, if you're not going to start Little, that's not the worst possible thing.
Yeah, because he has started at small forward, but
it's 5 minutes. I mean, it's been 5 games.
It would have been a token, but the flip side of this is the Clippers play bigger on the wings, and you would have gone 6'1", 6'2", 6'3" with less defense. And I think was kind of like, ugh. Here's a question for you. Does Nas play 30+ tonight? Because behind him, there's not a ton. It's either that or
I'm trying to think of it. Oh, man. If you're giving me an over-under of 30.
I'll be nice. I'll give you 29.
29 and a half, whatever. I'll take the under, and I'll tell you why. I'm worried. I'm worried. Trouble. Yeah, I'm worried about foul trouble. Yeah. PG going after him, aggressive young player who's got high energy, looking to make an impact. Okay, let me lure you in. Boom. You got 2 fouls in the first 6 minutes. And I'm also worried about the guard defense. Like if Dame and CJ are going to get cooked by Bledsoe or Reggie Jackson, like they're not going to be able to stay in front of them. You know, there's going to be some bad rotational situations there. And I worry that he ends up getting the brunt of that.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting situation to see because for the most part, with the exception of the first half, I should say, against the Kings, the Blazers have basically played 6 quarters of good basketball when it comes to not fouling, which is a little bit different from what they've been in the past, which doesn't make a ton of sense considering they're playing more aggressively. So I'm wondering if that's just been the league calling things a little bit differently, the Blazers being smarter, or them just getting really, really, really good luck. Because there's a good chance in my mind that they're going to find themselves in a position where they're going to pick up some foul trouble. And I don't know how well they're going to be able to cover that.
Well, I think you just kind of highlighted it at the start of the pod, did you not? Like, you're one that says, whether people like it or not, like that was a good game against Phoenix. How much of that was Phoenix kind of packing it in? Like Chris Paul taking 5 shots, everything dictated through Booker, not Chris Paul. Like, you know, I can understand the argument. Maybe that was a night where they're like, it's back-to-back.
Back-to-back. They crushed it in L.A.
We beat the Lakers.
That L.A. nightlife. They probably didn't fly out until the morning after.
Right. So, you know, and look, that's, again, not taking credit. Portland did what they needed to do.
Both can be true. But that's the thing. Both things can be true. Portland could play a good game, and Phoenix could have kind of crapped the bed.
Well, that's why tonight's important, right? Because the Clippers are 0-2. They give a damn. Paul George is cooking. Bledsoe's having a good start to his season. Like, we'll see what you are defensively. I'm really curious to hear, because I'm going to have to listen in the tomorrow morning, but I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on what their defense ends up being. Obviously, if we all see a good defensive performance, then cool. But like, I think there's a chance it's a little up and down, right?
Yeah.
Like they have good moments, but largely they
It's
still
a
allow
different
the
team
Clippers.
tonight.
Yeah, they allow the Clippers to score like 110.
Overall, I'm looking at this game, and I don't know which way it's going to go. I do lean towards the more offensive version just because while they are bigger, they are longer. The league, like I said, is kind of leaning that way right now. Reggie and Eric are not exactly stoppers at the guard position.
No.
So when Portland's going to continue to cook and CJ's going to continue to cook, I think you have to lean that way a little bit. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how this game goes, man. I don't have a feel for this game. I got the Phoenix one entirely wrong. But even coming into this game, I just go, I just had a question here from Evan James. Does GSJ play? I would say yes. I would say that Dennis Smith Jr. is now the guy in the rotation. I would put him above McLemore as far as the rotation goes because Ant is a little bit bigger, a little bit longer, and they can slide Ant to maybe eat a few minutes at the 3 if they need to.
If you were Chauncey, would you experiment with putting Reggie on Nas and put PG on CJ, considering how much CJ's cooking? See if that can disrupt some things, because I do think you can get away with that. Not that Nas won't have a physical advantage, but still, Reggie's 6'5", as you mentioned.
Just because the shot creation element, I would definitely consider doing that. But and PG has shown he can handle the workload of both being the offensive guy and being a premier stopper.
Well, except when there's 2 seconds left in a series and somebody's 37 feet away.
Listen,
you can't control bad shots. Right?
Listen, that's the thing, man. That whole series, Russ taking Dame straight up and not offering help and going.
It was the dumbest thing.
It still, to me, remains one of the most ignorant things I've ever seen in basketball.
Steven Adams on every pick, just 10 feet back. Like, what are you doing, Billy Donovan? What are we doing?
Hey, listen, man. He took over in Chicago, and things are going well, and we're already getting the "it's a bad shot" in the comments. Which, listen, it's going to go down in infamy. For everybody who didn't catch that there, Sprague will not be here for the postgame because this is a 7:30 tip, which means it's way past Sprague's bedtime. It's a late game. Are we national tonight? I think we're.
I think it's NBA TV.
Yeah, I say NBA TV. Yeah. So it will have a few more breaks. It will have an extended halftime. It will have extended quarter breaks. It won't be the full TNT nonsense where, good Lord, you're not getting done until 10:45.
You mean a 35-minute halftime that they try to act like is 15 minutes?
You come back from a commercial break 4 different times. Yeah, no.
I love how ESPN, TNT get games, and I've heard like the story about how ESPN, they obviously can never match TNT studio stuff, right? But let's be honest, though, also on this, ESPN's halftime show is maybe 10 minutes. TNT gets like 20 minutes, and they're just like, Charles, Shaq, go.
Go, have fun. It's not go run around and do something, and that's I think going to be the motto for the Blazers for tonight. Go run around and do something. Any other parting thoughts or parting wisdom here before we wrap things up here, Senor Sprague?
I'll take Blazers plus 3.
You are going to take it? Okay.
Yeah, I'll take them plus the 3 tonight, and I'm excited to see what this rotation is going to look like now that Nas is in the starting lineup.
I am going to take the over. I'm going to smash it every single time that they give me 230 or less. I am going to take it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Suns didn't score in that game, and they still cleared it easily.
Yeah.
There's zero reason to not take it with these teams right now. So, and the Clippers aren't exactly struggling. So, yeah, we will not have Sprague in the postgame. It will just be me solo dolo, which means I will probably take a few more questions as we kind of get through into the postgame. So make sure you're here for the postgame show. I will go live within 5-10 minutes of the buzzer, depending on what kind of happens in the game. If you haven't already, please like, rate, review, subscribe, do all of the things. If you're watching here on YouTube Live or if you're watching the playback and you haven't subscribed yet, scroll the mouse over or roll your thumb over ever so slightly while you're sitting on that toilet. Click subscribe, turn on the bell so you know when the show goes live, and look for the Jack Ramsays post-game show, always to drop the morning after the post-game show airs if you missed the live show. For Brandon Sprague, I'm Danny Marang. You can find us on social media at Danny Marang, at Brandon Sprague. You can find the show at Jack Ramsays. I will catch you in the post-game show. And until then, enjoy the game and go Blazers.